Everyone saw Saito as a pathetic office worker, but little did they know, he would become the greatest hero in another world. Saito was a useless young man, stuck in a dead-end job. He worked as a lowly repairman for a small company, where the grumpy boss paid him peanuts and treated him like dirt, while the HR department was too busy chasing promotions to care. Just when Saito was wondering if this was all life had in store for him, a truck driver named Kun suddenly appeared on his way home. Kun threw him into a parallel world, offering the young man a chance to rewrite his fate. Quickly, Saito realized life in this new realm was nothing like his dull office days. Few knew that in a world where everyone hunted monsters, having a young man who could fix anything made him invaluable. Saito soon met an unusual adventurer party who needed his help to explore dungeons. The team included Riza, a fierce but timid warrior, Lafan Pan, a tiny but stubborn fairy healer, and a forgetful yet powerful old mage who often botched his spells mid-incantation. Despite their quirks, this oddball group slowly bonded, and Saito's repair skills proved critical. He fixed doors, repaired gear, and organized their supplies. They gradually recognized Saito's true worth, and for the first time, he felt valuable in this strange worlder, feeling far better than his old life. One day, a bald con artist appeared, selling a fake sword to a shop owner in town. She happily bought the worthless blade for 18 gold coins. Saito glanced at it and quickly judged it a fake, but with his skills he could make it usable. The next day, deep in a dim cave, they fought a grotesque monster party. The old mage kept botching his spells like a clumsy apprentice, but each time Riza saved both Saito and the mage with a massive sword strike. After the battle, Saito felt like dead weight to the team. His simple mind was only suited for repairs. Without magic, survival in this brutal world seemed impossible. So, he begged to leave the fight. But in just a few days, Saito mastered all the mage's spells and returned to support the team on later missions. During one struggle to open a dungeon door, the ground suddenly collapsed. Saito fell headfirst, landing hard in a dark, terrifying cavern. After groaning in pain, he realized his leg was broken and bleeding was trapped and helpless. Haunted by memories of being abandoned and fearing his teammates would see him as a burden, Saito's heart sank. But soon, Riza, the mage, and Lafan Pan rushed to his side, faces filled with panic. They reassured him they would never leave him behind because he was truly irreplaceable. Hearing this, a strange warmth flooded Saito's heart, filling him with unexpected happiness. The next day, they battled a slimy, multi-headed sea monster named Anagi. Riza fought fiercely, unable to stand the disgusting creature. The mage cast spells on Anagi while Saito struck the beast down with his sword. Then, Saito surprised everyone by cooking the monster into a delicious roast. When he served the meal, both the mage and fairy were stunned by the explosion of flavors.
They coaxed Riza to taste it, and as she ate, she felt as if she had just soared to heaven. After this lavish feast, the team stepped forward stronger and closer than ever.
They stepped into a magicless cave to continue their quest. Soon they spotted a chest, but a nagging sense of a trap made them pass it by. After a while, they found another chest. Saito used his tools to disarm the trap, but as soon as he did, a foul-smelling green liquid poured onto Riza's armor, melting the metal away to reveal her bare body as they sat around the campfire. Suddenly, the old mage clutched his back in pain, begging Lafan Pan for some healing magic. But the practical moon spirit demanded a gold coin before she'd help. The old mage was broke after gambling away his money, so Saito reluctantly offered to pay. Curious about Lafan Pan's strange behavior, Riza decided to show him something. He saw Lafan Pan offering a gold coin to the moonlight. When he asked about this odd ritual, Riza explained that Lafan Pan was a moon spirit, cursed by the moon goddess herself. Despite her beautiful name, her people were condemned to shrink unless they offered gold. She told how moon spirits once lived on the moon, but the goddess, jealous of their slender legs, cursed and banished them to earth. Hearing this, Saito offered to pay Lafan Pan's debt with his savings, but Riza warned that spirits like her aren't greedy, they'd never accept money. The next day, Saito opened a chest, but it was a teleportation trap that dragged him and Riza to the lowest level of the labyrinth. The mage and spirit were unharmed, immune to magic. Suddenly, a giant iron golem appeared. Riza immediately told Saito to stay behind her and dashed forward. When things looked dire, she lunged at the golem with her sword, but it punched her away like a comet. She told Saito to run if he smelled onions, but instead, he climbed the golem and poured molten metal over it. The golem wrestled him so fiercely, Saito glimpsed his ancestors' faces flash before his eyes. Desperate, Riza remembered the life-saving potion the mage had given her. She quickly swallowed it and passed it to Saito with a French kiss. Moments later, Saito woke to find the mage, spirit, and Riser sweating nervously as Lafan Pan joyfully hopped around, retelling how Riser saved him, making her blush bright red. The next morning, Lafan Pan took Saito on a tour of this strange world he'd just landed in. Their first stop was the marriage counseling office. Saito was shocked to see arranged marriages in this land. Lafan Pan warned him to brace himself. This kingdom held many wonders that would drop his jaw. She explained the kingdom's peace and how magic and weapons had advanced, giving women more opportunities to join dangerous adventures. With treasure in the labyrinth running dry, young adventurers found it harder to earn money, making marriage even tougher. Soon, she nudged Saito to glance back at the counseling office. To his surprise, the old mage was inside, trying to find a wife. Suddenly, Riser appeared, dragging the old rogue away, letting the counselor breathe a sigh of relief.
The spirit explained to Saito that healing magic's rise had caused population decline and a shortage of caregivers, a serious problem. Their next task took them back to the cave, where they met a notorious seductive spirit known for her dangerously beautiful appearance. As Saito approached, the spirit cast a charm spell, driving him mad with infatuation. Saito, usually shy around girls, suddenly turned into a smooth talker, leaving Riser stunned and speechless. But when he flirted with another scantily clad spirit, she flew into a rage, attacking the seductive spirit herself. Her fierce anger took over as she swung her sword wildly, forcing the spirit to flee. Yet Saito remained cursed by the love spell.
Still under the spell, Saito shifted his affections to Riser, inching closer as she nervously backed away, sweating. Just as he was about to force a kiss, Lafan Pan stepped in, breaking the charm and freeing Saito. But the drama wasn't over. The seductive spirit saw the old mage holding hands with the seductive spirit and worried he too had been bewitched.
Saito was anxious, but Riser calmly explained that the old mage had willingly given in, immune to magic and destined to be rejected soon. Smirking, the spirit told Saito not to worry about the old rogue, and they continued their journey together. Soon, they encountered a trap that blackened anyone in metal armor. Saito asked if they could bypass it, but Riser feared for herself. The old mage advised Riser to remove her armor so he could use magic to carry her over the trap. She hesitated. Underneath, she wore little clothing. Seeing her discomfort, Saito quickly took off his shirt and offered it to her. But as they stepped onto the trap, the old mage was struck by lightning. He had forgotten the incantation.
Later, while Saito rested in a room, he found a strange book locked with a rusty padlock. Using his repair skills, he tried to open it, but found something odd inside a box holding a rotten mushroom. Suddenly, the old mage appeared behind him, explaining it was a cuckoo mushroom, a rare delicacy not to be wasted. He pulled out 10 mushrooms and sniffed them as if savoring a fine perfume. He said he hid them like a cat hiding kittens to keep others from stealing. Then, he showed Saito how to eat it. Suddenly, Riser burst in, demanding a share of the mushroom. Saito fell silent, realizing this was truly a prized treasure. One day, during a dragon hunt, Saito accidentally broke their best wire-cutting tool. The dragon carcass seemed sad, and asked if Saito could fix it. But since Saito wasn't a blacksmith, he shook his head in frustration. Seeing him down because his favorite tool was broken, the old mage suggested they seek help from his acquaintance, though the man was a bit eccentric. The old mage's contact was a dwarf named Don Bane, famed as the one who hears the voice of steel. Don Bane mastered the art of steel shaping, able to transform and craft everything from armor for tiny folk to shields for giants. But the dwarf had retired, fed up with clients who never paid and constantly complained about his high prices. The old mage said Don Bane hid deep within the cave behind a door locked by 108 keys. He added that entering Don Bane's workshop was harder than sneaking into the king's vault. Yet, Saito accepted the challenge to unlock all 108 locks, and so, the next chapter of their adventure began. With just a spark of effort, he triumphed. They stepped into the dwarf's workshop and greeted the old man. The dwarf gasped, stunned to see a craftsman from another world who could unlock 108 locks with unmatched skill. Before long, the dwarf expertly repaired Saito's tools and demanded payment-tone dragon scale. Joyful, Saito handed over the scale, eyes locked on the masterfully restored tools. Amazed at the dwarf's craftsmanship, how he fused silver blades and micro-engineered parts seamlessly, Saito suddenly wanted to ask for another favor. But when the dwarf inquired what it was, Saito switched topics and cheekily demanded a meal instead. The dwarf happily prepared dinner, and as they ate and drained their beer, Saito asked Riser a curious question. If women, children, and the weak all easily gained weapons of death, what would happen? Riser, tipsy and playful, replied, "Then you guys would be out of a job, right?" That thought nudged Saito toward designing a gun useful in battle, yet hesitation gripped him at the thought of introducing such a dangerous weapon to this world. Shaking off doubt, he suddenly stood and asked Riser to teach him swordsmanship, but Riser was already snoring after a dozen beers. Days later, Saito fell ill with a fierce flu and high fever. The spirit declared no magic could heal a cold, and even the old mage told Riser to make Saito rest while they tackled monster quests. Feeling useless in battle, Saito apologized, unaware that his silent support casting spells to aid the mage and saving Riser from a giant beast was vital to the team's survival. Without him, their squad couldn't function. Half a year had slipped by since Saito was pulled into this mysterious world. He confided in a town merchant about his past working construction with low pay and no respect back home. When he tried to confront his boss, he was fired on the spot. Still, he dreamt of his old master stopping him. Walking home, he thought, even if I die, it's no big deal. During this dark moment, Uncle Tai granted Saito's wish to see the afterlife. He was sent straight to another world, falling from the sky beside a half-clothed girl sleeping soundly. She mumbled about an old man and a spirit. When she woke and saw Saito lying next to her, she screamed and drew a knife, thinking him a pervert. As he drifted through the veil of consciousness, the old mage granted Saito the wish to be seen, sending him soaring into another realm. He plummeted from the sky, landing beside a girl lost in a deep slumber, clad in nothing but her undergarments. She mumbled something about a wizard and a spirit, but when her eyes fluttered open, she screamed in terror at the sight of a strange young man beside her in bed, instinctively drawing a dagger to strike him down. She thought he was a pervert, yet the old mage raised a sign, declaring he sensed no magic from Saito. It was clear he didn't belong to this world. Without the intervention of the wise mage, Saito would have met his end at the hands of that girl. Now, the entire party sat at a tavern for dinner, but Saito felt no hunger. His mind was still haunted by the steel golem. He questioned the mage and Riser about how the golem could move on its own, suspecting it was controlled by magic or machinery. But in battle, he'd felt the mechanical sounds, as though the beast operated on a spirit engine. The spirit suggested they investigate the ruins to confirm their theories, and Riser agreed they should return to level 10 for answers. Soon, they arrived at the dungeon, controlled by the authorities, but were barred at the entrance by guards demanding a toll. Riser protested that the fee was exorbitantly high for a year's worth of passage, prompting them to bargain with just a handful of coins. The guards reluctantly allowed them entry, and as they ventured into the cave, they quickly realized it was empty. No treasures awaited them. After wandering for a time, they reached the spot where they had defeated the golem, but there was no trace of it. The mage speculated that someone might have taken it away. Just then, Saito heard a clanging noise and rushed toward it, with Riser, the mage, and the spirit following closely behind. He discovered a machine buzzing with life only to realize it was a vacuum robot. Moments later, the robot sprang from his grasp and disappeared into the shadows. Seeing this, the mage questioned the robot's intentions. Saito nodded in confirmation. Then, placing his hand on a wall, the mage said it was a fake wall. With Saito's help, he chanted a spell, and a brilliant light burst forth, causing the wall to split open, revealing a new passage. As the entrance opened, adventurers from across the kingdom gathered there. Though Saito gained no recognition from the kingdom despite discovering the new path, he didn't mind. At least they got free entrance for the next 10 years. The mage noticed Saito's lingering bitterness and asked if he was still thinking about the vacuum robot they found in the cave. Saito hesitated, but before he could answer, a handsome young man and woman appeared before him. The young man introduced himself as Ken, a kingdom-recognized hero, bowing deeply to thank Saito for uncovering the new route. Saito asked the mage if the Demon King might return, and the mage replied that such a thing was uncertain, but some heroes had been chosen just in case, Ken being one of them. Then Ken casually declared that even though Saito discovered the new path, he himself would be the one to conquer all the dungeon floors. The whole team stared at Ken in bewilderment, wondering where this audacious arrogance came from. Suddenly, a round-faced young cleric rushed over, bowing profusely and apologizing on behalf of the heroes. He explained that Ken was chosen at a very young age and hadn't yet matured emotionally. Introducing himself as Man Pui, the one responsible for guiding the heroes, he reached out to shake Saito's hand. But before the handshake could happen, another hero blocked Man Pui, accusing him of deceit and hiding something in his hand. Those who shook hands with Man Pui were suddenly frozen stiff, unable to move. Looking around, Saito saw many soldiers, youths, and adventurers lying rigid on the ground, groaning in helplessness. Realizing the plan was exposed, Man Pui quickly fled the scene. Saito thanked the stranger who saved him from Man Pui, and Riza recognized the savior as an elf warrior with iron hands. The elf urged his comrades to hurry into the dungeon, warning that the rarest treasures would be taken if they delayed. Soon, they spotted two young men carrying the head of a silver dragon. The elf pointed out these two as formidable future rivals, commanding the strongest teams in the kingdom. The next day, Saito and his team returned to the dungeon, ready yet anxious. They carefully navigated the twisting dark corridors, stepping silently and scrutinizing the shadows around them. The heavy silence was shattered by the distant drip of water. Then suddenly a furious roar echoed as a giant dragon-like monster emerged from the darkness without warning. It opened its jaws and exhaled a thick, poisonous smoke towards Molo. Molo inhaled the toxic cloud, his fragile body weakening as he collapsed unconscious. Saito rushed to his side, heart pounding as he tried to wake him, knowing they needed Molo's magic to survive this deadly ordeal. Meanwhile, Riza stepped forward, gripping her sword high and raising her metal shield, ready to face the dragon head-on. The dragon charged Riza with ferocious strength. Each strike sent tremors through her body, pushing her backward. Her boots scraped fiercely against the stone floor as she struggled to hold her ground, blocking blows with her shield, though her arm trembled under the immense pressure. Despite her courage, Riza's sword barely scratched the dragon's thick, steel-like scales. Even the dragon's tail lash left her dizzy and disoriented. Just then, a girl with braided hair appeared in a flash. Moving with lightning speed and unshakable confidence, she charged the dragon's side wielding a massive weapon. Her sharp strikes pierced the dragon's defenses, causing it pain for the first time. The beast snarled and thrashed, trying to shake her off, but she pressed on relentlessly. Every blow targeted a weak spot in the dragon's armor, staggering the creature. With a final powerful strike, the girl felled the dragon, which roared in agony before collapsing to the ground. She introduced herself as Lilisa, known among all as a fearsome beast hunter. Not long after, a muscular young man appeared beside her, whom she introduced as Jibo. Lilisa declared they came to claim the treasure, but it was locked tight. She reassured everyone not to worry, because Jibo, her companion and a skilled mage thief, would handle the lock. Yet when Jibo tried to pick it, he admitted defeat, saying this case was tougher than he expected. Saito asked if he should give it a try. Lilisa eyed Saito skeptically, doubting his skills. Riza stood up, warning her not to underestimate their teammate. Without hesitation, Saito set to work, his nimble fingers and tools swiftly unlocking the chest. When it opened, he was stunned to find it filled with diamonds. He handed some to Jibo, telling him they belonged to all who had conquered the dragon. Jibo blushed, heart pounding not from treasure, but because of Saito. Later, Saito accidentally got separated from the team. After walking alone for a while, he encountered Man Pui again. Saito told him he wouldn't wander anymore, confident his teammates had found him, so he would just wait here. Man Pui observed Saito, calling him weak but always putting on a confident facade. He tried to manipulate Saito's mind, claiming Saito's team must be strong and that he'd have to deceive them to join. Saito, after some time, found himself separated from the party. After a solitary walk, he encountered Man Pui. He informed Man Pui that he wouldn't wander anymore, confident that his teammates knew his whereabouts. He would wait here for them. Man Pui observed him, noting how Saito seemed weak yet always put on a brave face. He tried to manipulate Saito's psyche, suggesting that his teammates must be strong and he had to deceive them to be accepted. Seeing that psychological manipulation had no effect on Saito, Man Pui quickly set down his gear, creating a barrier around himself. When Saito inquired, he explained it was a barrier to keep monsters at bay. Man Pui looked at Saito and lamented that he lacked enough magic to create one for him. Saito then pulled out a stash of holy water, gifted to him by the spirit Lafan Pan, and poured it out to form a protective barrier around himself, sitting down comfortably. He offered Man Pui a sandwich, but Man Pui declined, feeling guilt for how he had treated Saito previously. Man Pui realized that his aloof demeanor had pushed people away. Not long after, Saito's teammates rushed in, checking if he was okay. Witnessing their close bond, Man Pui felt a twinge of sadness for not being sought after by his own team. Suddenly, he saw Ken's racing toward him, embracing him with a shout of concern, asking why he had wandered off alone. Hearing that, Manpui felt his eyes welling up with tears, while Saito and his comrades felt moved by their friendship. They realized that Ken's was a true hero. In a moment of confusion, they misjudged the boy. Suddenly, they faced a monstrous creature-eats form reminiscent of a spider. Ryza charged into battle, poised to unleash a brutal attack to eliminate the beast. But before she could strike, a warrior elf leaped down, swiftly dispatching the creature instead. After the victory, he declared his intent to claim the treasure the monster had been guarding. Ryza fiercely objected, insisting that the treasure rightfully belonged to her. The elf turns to face her, declaring he saved her life. But Ryza retorts she didn't need saving. The elf insists again he was her savior. Their argument over the treasure escalates until they decide to settle it in a solo duel, though fighting among adventurers in the labyrinth is forbidden and could lead to a ban. The elf says he welcomes the challenge. Ninia, the elf's teammate, tries to stop him, but he won't listen. He tells Ryza to send someone from her side. Ninia and Lafanpan step forward to forge a pact. Even if someone dies, there will be no grudges. A hidden magic contract is sealed. Ryza and the elf prepare to fight while Saito watches, confused but helpless on the sidelines. Still, he feels some relief seeing Ryza in heavy armor. It should protect her from the elf's iron claws. The duel begins with the clash of swords and sharp claws, yet the elf's speed pierces through Ryza's armor with his deadly talons. Saito realizes Ryza's sword isn't suited to battle such a swift, skilled opponent. Suddenly, Ryza sheds her heavy armor and activates lighter gear to speed up her reactions. Ninia urges the elf to stop, saying she doesn't want him to kill anyone. The elf agrees, sensing he might lose if the fight continues. The duel ends. Saito steps forward, offering part of his team's treasure share to the elf and Ninia, as it might be too much for just his group. Now Saito and his comrades descend to lower floors, when suddenly he spots the vacuum robot again. This time, he chases after the noise, shouting to his team that he'll go alone. He keeps pursuing the stubborn robot as it ventures deeper into the cave. After a while, Saito reaches a strange place filled with items from his own world. As he tries to make sense of his surroundings, a masked ninja with a razor-sharp sword attacks him. Luckily, Ryza arrives just in time to save him. She senses a glowing magic light around and wonders why there's so much illumination when ninjas usually thrive in shadows. Suddenly, the ninja steps on her shadow, immobilizing her body stuck fast to the ground. The ninja lunges to strike, but a dwarf blacksmith rushes in to save the day, shooting an arrow at the ninja. Lafanpan attacks the ninja's teammate, while the elf spirit, an ally of the ninja, dampens the magic light. The blacksmith chants a spell, causing explosions in the cave that force the ninja to flee. It's revealed the ninja is behind all the secret attacks on adventurers. Seeing the old mage blacksmith, the dwarf blacksmith bowed deeply, his voice steady as he said, "I've been searching for the old mage for a long time, and at last, I've found him." The old mage's eyes widened in surprise when the dwarf called him master. He replied, "I only take girls as apprentices." Calmly, the dwarf explained, "That was long ago before you lost your memory. But you were once a renowned mage from a distant eastern land. 20 years ago you left in search of forbidden magic and never returned." The dwarf continued, "I saw you at the entrance of the great labyrinth and have been waiting for a chance to speak." The old mage looked puzzled and asked, "Have you forgotten your past?" He answered, "Except for the name Mook and my magic, I truly remember nothing else." Lafanpan added that recently his magic skills have been failing him because he often forgets his incantations. The dwarf cautioned them not to speak harshly to such a great mage, who is also quite famous among the sisterhood. Speaking seriously, he revealed the old mage's true name is Great Mage Bokahem. Suddenly, a dagger flew out of nowhere and pierced the old mage's neck. The sudden attack forced Ryza and the others to immediately take their stances. Ryza wondered if this was the same ninja from before. In her heart, she thought no matter how strong the ninja was, with Saito's support and the old mage's magic, they could defeat him. But then, panic swept through them as they saw the ninja arriving with a group of large demons. The ninja's past was a devastating tragedy. He had fallen in love with a beautiful mage, and when they kissed, she loved him back. Yet, when he came to take her away, he found she had died, her body aged and pale. The ninja's fairy companion told him that when the mage loved him, her age curse was broken, and she returned to her true age. Desperate to save his beloved, the fairy pointed him to the great mage in the east, the very old mage standing before them now. So the ninja followed them to this cave. As the battle intensified, Ryza, Lafanpan and their comrades faced formidable foes. Ryza confronted the ninja, who wielded dark magic, attempting to trap her by stepping on her shadow to immobilize her. But Lafanpan instantly aided by casting a radiant light spell that shone on the shadow, breaking the ninja's magic and freeing Ryza. Lafanpan warned Ryza to stay alert, cautioning her that if the ninja stepped on her shadow again, the danger would be grave. Meanwhile, Lafanpan healed the dwarf mage, who had now returned to the fight, determined to protect them from the advancing demons. The dwarf stood firm, shielding his friends from the demons' relentless attacks. While blocking the demons' blows, he signaled to the old mage to prepare his strongest spells. They knew they had to hold the demons long enough for the old mage to unleash his powerful magic. The battle grew fiercer when a second demon joined, confidently declaring that neither magic nor allies were needed to defeat Saito and his team. With a surge of dark energy, the second demon unleashed a massive wave aimed at Saito and his friends. The overwhelming force left Saito stunned, realizing his fire magic was insufficient against these demons. Filled with guilt for leading everyone into danger, he urged the old mage to cast a high-level spell called the Lightning God, hoping it would turn the tide. Saito had memorized the incantation and began chanting alongside the old mage, focusing all their power on the spell. Suddenly, a colossal lightning bolt crashed down upon the demons, unleashing terrifying energy. For a moment, it seemed victory was theirs, but one demon still stood, unscathed. That demon seized Saito in its massive hand, crushing him until blood flowed freely. Ryza gasped, fearing Saito was dead. The agonizing scene made her feel as if the ground beneath her would collapse. But then, everyone looked up to see Saito standing safely, with Lila and Jibo beside him. The old mage explained that Jibo had used a special replacement spell to save Saito at the last moment. With Saito safe, everyone breathed a sigh of relief and thanked Jibo for his quick thinking. Once calm, Jibo explained he and Lila heard the battle and decided to help, joking that they couldn't let Saito hog the treasure alone. Lila smiled, revealing that Jibo had been secretly tracking Saito for some time with a tracking spell because he was a reckless youth. The whole team laughed, feeling reassured now that they were safe. They knew they were stronger together, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Suddenly, an enraged demon charged at them, but an elven warrior from the forest arrived just in time, kicking the demon in the face. The demon flew into the air and unleashed a dark energy blast aimed at everyone. But to their surprise, a protective shield surrounded them. Turning around, they saw Manpui and the others forming a barrier to guard against the demon's attack. United, they stood firm to confront the ninja and the demons. Seeing many warriors against him, the ninja felt threatened, and the demons decided to retreat to save themselves. Ninja instructed Ryza and Lafanpan to help her block the demon's escape, warning they could pose great danger to high-level adventurers inside the labyrinth. Ninja proposed combining their magic to eliminate the threat, and Lafanpan agreed. Primus, the ninja's fairy, tried to stop them but was struck by a magical arrow from Mage Richie. Seeing their demon friends in danger, the ninja took the combined magic attack head-on, ready to die for those he loved. For the first time ever, he fought for a cause beyond himself. Moments later, the magic struck, and the demons froze in shock. Ninja declared he was on this journey for the woman he loved, so his followers no longer needed to force themselves to follow him. Ninja looked at the ninja and told everyone the magic attack hadn't seriously harmed him but surely inflicted heavy damage. Saito told everyone to stop, saying the winner was clear. But then, the elven fairy jumped in to protest they couldn't leave because they were suspected of killing other adventurers. Ninja's fairy shouted angrily that no one would claim the mage's hidden treasure controlling time. She summoned 8th level dark magic to protect her master and help save the witch. The dwarf witch explained that this fairy was a dark stone fairy, capable of storing magical energy in her black wings. It turned out the fairy cared deeply for the witch, who was always chased by adventurers wanting to exploit her wings to save themselves, so she chose to become a guardian fairy, so humans would lose interest. She moved as if caught in slow motion, finally captured by one of the adventurers. But then, the witch stepped in, rescuing her, and bringing her home. Both outcasts in a world that had cast them aside, they found a fragile harmony in each other's presence. The witch revealed she had lived alone for 400 years, cursed. She told the spirit that if she ever loved someone, the curse would break and death would follow. Yet, the ninja refused to sacrifice the spirit. Holding her wing tightly, he sought to stop her from unleashing dark magic on Saito and the others. The spirit screamed for him to tear her wing off and free the magic, but fear rooted him in place. So, in a desperate act, the spirit plunged 2 sacred daggers into her wing, offering it to the Dark Lord. A pillar crashed down in the Caverna harbinger of the Dark Soul's arrival. Countless eyes opened on the pillar's surface. Suddenly, an elf locked eyes with one, only to be flung across the cavern, his ear torn. Another eye shot a beam of energy toward the elf and his comrades, but Ryza intercepted it with her sword. She realized that the ninja and his friends had become sacrifices to summon this dark soul. Now, this malevolent spirit wreaked havoc in the cave. Saito commanded the mage to use the 10 Thunder God technique again. The old mage raised his staff to the sky, chanting to summon lightning bolts, while Saito stood by, helping him recall the spell. The final thunderbolt struck the dark magic pillar, but nothing happened. Instead, the pillar grew wildly unstable, spewing red energy from every eye. The dwarf urged everyone to target the pillar's eyes, but it blocked every assault, growing stronger with a frenzied power. No one could get close. Pan shouted in panic, her magic fading, powerless to stop the attacks. Saito told the old mage to unleash the time-stop spell. The mage eyed him suspiciously and asked how he knew such magic. Saito answered that when he opened the locked book with the mushroom-shaped seal, he found a secret page containing instructions for controlling time and space. The old mage immediately recognized himself as the one who had sent Saito to this world. Memories flooded back the days spent on a powerful magic project, his young daughter the center of his universe. He had promised her he would become the greatest mage in the land so they could live happily together in a wonderful home. He wanted to give her the best life, but work consumed him, and he neglected her. One dark day, she fell gravely ill. His wife begged him to stay and help, but he refused, fearing failure would ruin everything they'd worked for. He thought that becoming a famous mage would secure their future. Time passed, and he was lost in his work, ignoring family. Finally, he achieved his goal and became the strongest mage. Rushing home to share the news, he was met only by silence. His daughter had died from her illness. His wife, devastated, told him she was gone. Heartbroken, he realized he had sacrificed everything and lost the one he loved most. His wife, torn between grief and anger, left him. In the end, the old mage was left alone, burdened by sorrow and regret, a lonely shadow haunted by the price of ambition. In a blaze of fury, the old sorcerer shattered countless spellbooks until his eyes fell upon a strange ancient tome. Within its pages, he uncovered whispers of a mysterious labyrinth in the Northern Kingdom, concealing the powerful secret of time, magic, the ability to rewind moments lost. Hope ignited fiercely within him, and he vowed to master this magic to bring his daughter back. Thus began his tireless journey into the vast maze. Days of wandering led him to a curious cache of artifacts, among them a dusty manuscript pulsing with arcane energy. As he reached out, a young man cloaked in white appeared, Saito, the mage. The stranger explained he wished to return his daughter to life, yet refused to simply hand over the knowledge. Instead, he challenged the old sorcerer to a duel. Only if he won would the secret be revealed. Their battle was fierce, each strike draining their strength and leaving wounds that told stories of stubborn resolve. In the end, the stranger, impressed by the old mage's unwavering determination, agreed to help, but not by teaching time magic. Instead, he cast a different spell, one that erased every memory from the sorcerer's mind. His daughter, his wife, and every lingering regret wiped clean. Freed from the chains of sorrow, the sorcerer was reborn into a life unburdened by the past. All that remained was a blank sheet of paper and a new existence, empty yet unshackled. Back in the present, he stood silently, trying to piece together fragments of memory as Saito's words echoed in his mind. Had he been the one to bring Saito into this world? But his mind was a fog, and the magic he once knew now felt like a distant dream. His knowledge of magic was now a whisper, faint, fragile. Only one spell lingered in his heart, Moment of Time, a magic that could freeze everything within a single heartbeat. Saito sensed the hesitation in the old mage and stepped forward, offering his help. Together, they prepared the spell, drawing on the scattered remnants of the sorcerer's fading memories. Meanwhile, the dwarf sent a telepathic warning to the team, alerting them to the sorcerer's plan. His magic was underway. The team rallied, each using their unique gifts to keep the pillars open, preventing further chaos. The forest elf took command, directing Ruza to protect Jibo and Ninia, while he taunted the pillars to maintain their energy flow, allowing the magic to continue. But disaster struck. Lefan Pan was hit by a sudden beam of light, losing her balance and forced from the battlefield. The pressure mounted as the sorcerer and Saito felt the urgency. Their allies' safety was at stake, and time was running out. Manpui and the sorcerer's disciples formed a shield, protecting him as he chanted, sweat and tension thick in the air. Each member fought fiercely to hold the line, while the sorcerer struggled to recall the final incantation. Piece by piece, the words came together until, at last, the spell was complete. A strange, powerful silence enveloped everything then. Suddenly, the world froze. Time stood still, perfectly suspended, just as the spell had promised. The sorcerer looked around, startled by the eerie stillness. Both allies and foes were trapped in this frozen instant. Yet as he observed, a new puzzle emerged. The spell had worked. But now he was alone, lost in silence, unsure of his next move. With only 100 milliseconds to act, his mind drifted in confusion, unable to grasp who he was or where he stood. He tried to awaken Saito, but none could hear his voice. Then, his gaze fell upon his hand, where a set of scribbled instructions appeared, urging him to strike the eye with magic. Suddenly, he understood it was Saito's aid, guiding him through frozen time. A surge of positive energy flooded the sorcerer's body. With a roar fueled by anger and love for his comrades whom he saw as his own children, he unleashed a spell, igniting an explosion strong enough to shatter the pillar. Charging forward, memories assailed him, painful visions of the witch and ninja, tears streaming beside an old mage and a spirit who spoke of a savior. He realized his enemy also fought for love and loyalty. Defeating this force meant the ninja and his allies couldn't be saved, yet for his team's sake, he pressed on. Time flowed once more as the pillar crumbled, but his arm fell, severed from his body. Onlookers gasped, but the sorcerer stayed calm, urging them to find the spirit's wings lost during the dark magic. Raza protested fiercely, "Why help those who tried to kill them?" The sorcerer answered, "Before casting the spell, I saw their memories. I can't kill them." Using only half his magic, he attacked to avoid death while activating a counterspell to cancel hostile magic. The plan succeeded, but the backlash cost him his arm in a cruel twist of fate. Tears welled as Raza rushed to embrace him. After searching beneath the stones, Lafanpan found a pair of black wings. Jibo offered to attach them using magic, but the spirit writhed in Jibo's grasp. The earth golem declared she needed no charity from someone walking with humans. Lafanpan pointed to the ninja, and the spirit too was cooperating with a human. Finally, both smiled, embracing humanity's touch. If he were to defeat this foe, there would be no hope left for the ninja and his comrades. Yet, driven by loyalty, he launched a devastating magical assault against the pillar. Time seemed to freeze as they all watched, wide-eyed, the pillar shatter before them, and the wizard's arm plummeted to the ground, severed from his body. Shock gripped the onlookers, but the wizard remained calm, urging them to find the spirit's wings. Perhaps the essence of Lin was lost when she wielded the dark magic, as she fought against the ninja and his allies who sought to end their lives. The mage, however, sensed their memories before casting his spell, and in that moment he found himself unable to deliver the final blow. Instead, he unleashed only half of his magic, in an effort to avoid killing them, simultaneously activating a counterspell. The spell was a success, but it came at a terrible price. His arm was torn away by the backlash. Hearing this, Rai felt a rush of emotions as tears streamed down her face, rushing to embrace him. They then searched for the fairy's wings, and after a moment of sifting through the rocks, Lafanpan discovered a pair of black wings. Jibo offered to help her attach the wings to the fairy's body using magic, but just as Lafanpan was about to join them, the fairy twisted in Jibo's grip. "I don't need charity from someone who walks alongside humans," she declared defiantly. Lafanpan pointed at the ninja and retorted, "But the fairy gets along just fine with a human." In the end, both sides found a moment of joy, while the ninja stood there, filled with regret and sadness. He had been tasked with returning the two demons to the demon world, yet he explained he couldn't act as he wished. These demons had haunted him for a long time, shadowing his every step, and they were the ones responsible for the recent attacks on nearby villages. The ninja confessed his guilt, and stated he would accept any punishment, even death, for the trouble he had caused. However, he pleaded for the fairy and the demons to be spared, hoping to protect them from further harm. The members of the adventurer team observed him closely, sensing the deeper story within Ninja's silence. One of them asked if he was searching for a powerful mage, someone capable of controlling time. The ninja's eyes brightened at this question, as he nodded, confirming he had heard of such a mage and knew their name. That mage was Bokeh Chroma figure the ninja believed could hold the key to mending his past mistakes, and perhaps even save his lost friend. The dwarf then pointed towards the injured mage being cared for by Man Pui and other adventurers, revealing to the ninja that the very mage he sought was the wrinkled elder standing right before him. That one-armed mage is Crom himself, an astral-tier sorcerer of rare caliber, so powerful he's known as the Infinite Mage. Celebrated as the most brilliant sorcerer in the Eastern Kingdom, his fame has spread far and wide. 10 years ago, Crom earned his legend by delving into the deadly Great Labyrinth, a place shrouded in untold mysteries and peril. His incredible achievements forged his legendary status. As the ninja faced Crom, hope surged within him. His heart raced, his mind swirling with the possibilities. If Crom truly controls time, maybe, just maybe, he could help the ninja rescue a mighty old mage lost to the years and reunite with the beloved he mourns. The ninja's despair ebbed away, replaced by a fragile glimmer of hope. But suddenly, 3 swords plunged into the ground right before him, slicing through his thoughts. He looked up, startled, as two shadowy figures emerged from the darkness. Their faces hidden, their presence chilling. They moved with eerie silence. Their black cloaks fluttered like ominous wings, their expressions unreadable as they drew closer to the ninja and his party. These two declared they'd punish the ninja for his killings, ordering their swords to strike. But before the blades could touch him, his demon ally intercepted the attack. Furious, the demon stepped forward, warning them that anyone who dared harm his boss would be ended without mercy. Just then, another figure transformed into a demon. It was the demon's uncle, who had been working alongside the ninja all along. As their bond rekindled through shared memories, the black-winged spirit confirmed this paladin was undoubtedly a demona, high-ranking one at that. Saito questioned Lafanpan about the casualties from the demon's sneaky attacks. She answered that 2 were unaccounted for, believed to be revived alongside a paladin and a mage from another kingdom. It turned out that the mage and paladin before them were those very survivors. One of them was even the king's minister. If these 2 chose to forgive the ninja, he would avoid the noose. The ninja then asked the mage if he could help reverse time. The mage replied he could only freeze time momentarily. The true master of time reversal magic was a mage who summoned items from another space-time realm, but this young man had grown weary of the world and disappeared somewhere unknown. The mage didn't know where this stranger was, perhaps in the monster kingdom, the spirit realm, or maybe even the human world where Saito lived. Finding this young man was their only hope. The minister stepped forward, his voice heavy with urgency, revealing a desperate hope. There might be another way to save the old wizard who served the king. The magic required, he explained, demanded the life of someone bound by fate to the wizard. Both demons turned to Ninja, urging him not to sacrifice himself, whispering of alternative paths to resurrection. But Ninja, with quiet resolve, told the minister to use his own life. He declared that even if it meant his own hanging, he would give his life to protect the woman he loved. The minister responded solemnly, saying Ninja must face the kingdom's laws, yet if everyone could pretend to overlook his sins and forgive him, there might be another solution. Ultimately, the group chose mercy. Saito spoke up, saying if Ninja wished to help someone, he should be granted that chance. With that, the monsters were sent back to their homes, and the minister contacted the king. "You can break the old wizard's curse," he said, readying teleportation magic to bring Ninja to the king. After Ninja was teleported, Lafanpan asked Saito if he had found the vacuum robot he'd been searching for. Saito admitted he hadn't, explaining that for now, his focus was elsewhere. The wizard speculated that a sorcerer had once lived here, summoning these creatures by opening doors to other worlds. Soon, other wizards arrived at the labyrinth, signaling a newly discovered area. Meanwhile, the king and Ninja reached the old wizard's home to break the dying witch's curse. Ninja spoke to the king, telling him that his rushed, loving actions had aged the witch prematurely. He realized, for the first time, that just as he loved his friendsome, of whom he had killed, so too did they love others. The king replied, surprised that Ninja had only now grasped such a simple truth, calling him shallow. Soon after, the king drew his sword and attacked Ninja to break the magic, but being a good man, he chose not to kill him only, severing one arm and one leg. The witch emerged from the room, reborn youthful and strong after a long rest. Her smooth, radiant face brimmed with vitality and energy. As she looked around, she noticed a solitary ninja standing silently nearby, but she quickly saw he had lost an arm and a leg. Though painful, these wounds seemed not to burden him. His determined gaze remained fixed on her. Yet what she didn't realize was the depth of suffering and sacrifice this injured youth had endured for her sake. The black-winged spirit had given up her wings, her very essence, to save and protect the witch's life, a price almost too great to bear. Those wings were the witch's most precious treasure, her true self. But she had let them go to save her loyal friend. The witch, having slumbered for so long, had forgotten much of her past and the people who cared for her, including the ninja standing before her now. She barely recognized him, casting a cold glance before turning away. Seeing this, Ninja felt a pang of sorrow, realizing she no longer remembered their bond. Silently he turned away, heavy-hearted with words left unspoken. But just as he prepared to leave, the black-winged spirit appeared, her voice sharp with anger and mockery. She urged him not to give up without revealing the truth, without confessing the love he had silently held all this time. Ninja, humble and grateful, replied that it didn't matter if his love went unrecognized. He was content knowing she was safe. The spirit, furious at his refusal to confess, shouted reminders of her sacrifice. She told him she had given up her fragile, weakened wings just to see his love fulfilled. She vowed not to let him leave in cowardice, challenging him to stay, face the witch boldly, and fight once more for her heart. At that moment, Ninja turned back and saw the witch approached by 2 suspicious figures. At first, He thought she could handle such small threats alone and hesitated to intervene. But the black-winged spirit quickly warned him that the witch's magic was gone, her energy seemingly vanished during her long rest. This revelation sparked a fierce determination in Ninja. Without hesitation, he rushed forward to shield the witch from danger, driving away the two men. Soon he realized these were no common thugs but his own brethren, demons who had arrived with the black-winged spirit to help conclude his love story. They came to help him conquer his fears and win the witch's heart. Hoping their intervention would finally bring Ninja and the witch together, the demons said their goodbyes at the labyrinth's exit, each taking a different path but promising to meet again when fate allowed. Together, they returned to town, weary but fulfilled. They decided to relax at a nearby inn, a warm place filled with the aroma of delicious food, the perfect sanctuary after their arduous journey. Gathered around a large table, they shared recent stories, laughter, and gratitude for the bonds forged on their shared adventure. As they enjoyed their final meal, one asked the question on everyone's mind: how did the mysterious wizard in their party bring Saito into their world? The old wizard admitted he barely remembered the details. He only recalled casting magic one day, as usual, when suddenly Saito appeared in Rise's room. Whether coincidence or fate, it was a mystery even to him. He expressed regret for bringing Saito into their world without permission, yet Saito appreciated the wizard's honesty and bore no resentment. In fact, he felt grateful, seeing this twist as a salvation from a terrible accident in his old world. The team sat quietly in thought, until Pan spoke up with an idea that seemed to echo everyone's unspoken thoughts. If the wizard's magic could bring Saito here, perhaps it could also send him back. He hoped to help him conquer his fears and win back the heart of the witch. With their intervention, perhaps the ninja and the witch would finally realize their love for one another and be together. The adventurers exchanged farewells at the labyrinth's exit, each taking a different path but promising to reunite when fate allowed. They returned to the town, weary yet fulfilled. In their hearts, they decided to unwind at a nearby taverna, cozy place infused with the aroma of delicious food, creating the perfect ambiance for rest after their arduous journey. Gathering around a large table, they shared recent stories, laughed, and felt grateful for the bond they had forged during their shared adventure. As they savored their final meal, one person posed the question everyone was curious about. How did the mysterious wizard in their team bring Saito into their world? The old wizard admitted he barely remembered the details, only recalling that he had practiced magic one day as usual when Saito suddenly appeared in Rise's room. Whether it was coincidence or fate remained a mystery, even to him, and he felt a twinge of guilt for having brought Saito into their world without his consent. Nevertheless, Saito appreciated the wizard's honesty and held no resentment. In fact, he felt grateful for this twist of fate that had saved him from a terrible accident in his old world. Apologetically, he clarified that he had no intention of bringing Saito into their world without his consent. However, Saito felt immense gratitude for the elder mage's honesty and held no resentment. In fact, he was thankful for this twist of fate that had rescued him from a terrible accident in his old world. The team sat in silence, contemplating until Pan spoke up with an idea that seemed to resonate with everyone. She suggested that if the elder mage's magic was strong enough to bring Saito to this world, perhaps it could also send him back to where he came from. This possibility stirred a whirlwind of mixed emotions within the team, each member reflecting on what this meant. For Risa, who had grown close to Saito through their battles, the thought of him leaving was distressing. She realized she didn't truly want him to go, remembering the promise he had made to stay by her side and work with her until the very end. The mere idea of parting with him caused her deep pain, for she cherished the friendship and strength he had brought into her life. She added that their team's reputation had truly risen after Saito joined, and if he were to return, they would be left wondering what to do next. As he finished speaking, she stormed out of the inn, tears cascading down her cheeks. Saito, consumed by worry, chased after her into the night. Everyone else searched for Saito and Risa, anxious about the lurking monster that might be hiding in the shadows. Risa, having left behind her sword, felt the weight of Saito's burden as he grappled with his place in this new world, especially their complicated relationship. Risa, a fierce warrior, sensed his unease. With just the two of them together, she seized the moment to ask about his desire to return to his former world. Saito admitted that he truly didn't want to go back, revealing that no one wished for his return. Just as he opened his heart, a colossal creature, resembling a giant centipede encased in thick armor, emerged abruptly from the ocean, charging towards them. Claws sharp as blades were poised to strike. Saito stood helpless, frozen as the beast lunged. Its claws dug deep into Risa's armor. Fear gripped Saito's heart for her safety. But in a breath-stealing moment, Risa summoned an otherworldly strength and tore the monster apart with her bare hand, splitting it in two. Its lifeless body crashed into the water like a fallen titan. Riza stood victorious, but her stance bore an unsettling stillness. Yet, Saito saw the tremble beneath her calm. No longer hiding, her eyes spoke volumish, treasured him beyond anyone else in this world. It was as if she silently told him, "You matter more than anything here." Saito's heart quivered, relief washing over him because she was safe. He stepped close to check her wounds, noticing scars and gently wrapping a bandage. He reminded her to take the antidote, a tender gesture revealing his deep care. Unspoken, Saito's desire to stay by the side of the one who needed him most shone through. Riza, moved but masking her feelings, averted her gaze from him to the fallen monster seeking to distract herself. She shifted the mood by commenting on Saito's growing knowledge of monsters, trying to bring calm to their charged conversation. Before their emotions could spiral, the old mage and Pan arrived, concern shadowing their faces. Riza worried about Saito's future and asked the mage if he could send Saito back home. The mage paused thoughtfully, explaining that even with the right spellbook, returning Saito would mean dropping him at the exact moment he first left right before the speeding truck that brought him to this world, essentially condemning him to death. Though this truth weighed heavy and brought despair to Saito, he quickly pushed it aside, clinging to a spark of hope. He declared he had no plans to return. At last he had found a place where he was needed and, most importantly, accepted. His resolve renewed, he chose to stay and become an adventurer alongside Riza and their comrades, embracing the risks and wonders of this new life. With determination solidified, he chose to remain as an adventurer alongside Riza and their comrades, embracing the dangers and wonders of this new life. The bond between the team grew stronger than ever as they faced new challenges, trusting that they would always have each other in both battle and life. Months later, after the fierce clash with the shadow spirits, Riza, Pan, and Saito received shocking news from a messenger. The old wizard had passed away. The entire team was taken aback, especially Riza, who immediately felt a wave of anxiety. She contemplated every possible solution to revive him, asking the messenger if there was a resurrection potion or if they could bring his body to a nearby temple for revival. However, the messenger dismissed her worries. She questioned the messenger about resurrection potions or if they could take his body to a nearby shrine for revival, but the messenger's words crushed hope there was no chance. The weight of loss settled over them all, a reminder that even in a world filled with magic and adventure, some battles are fought in silence, and some wounds run too deep to heal. Her hesitation laid bare the harsh truth. Reviving a body through formal procedures or keeping it in the morgue demanded a fortune neither he nor anyone else was willing to pay. With a tone steeped in indifference, he remarked that the remains of the old wizard had been placed in a simple tent to stave off decay. Yet, even that could not guarantee safety. A wild wolf had bitten into the wizard's corpse, leaving them no choice but to bury him swiftly to avoid disrespect. The entire party gathered to pay their respects at the wizard's grave, their hearts heavy with sorrow. Each one felt the weight of regret for the old mage, who was a master of magic and its limits. Pan, knowledgeable in the arcane arts, explained that resurrection magic likely wouldn't work if the body was damaged, and it was certainly impossible if buried. Despite her reasoning, Saito couldn't shake the shock within him, nor the guilt surrounding the old wizard's death. He found it hard to accept that the wizard had perished from mere poison when they had faced far deadlier challenges together. Riza shared his disbelief, struggling to accept that someone as powerful as the old wizard had fallen on the battlefield. Saito suggested they consider the possibility of digging him up to attempt a resurrection, but Riza knew this would require a monumental donation to the church, an expense they simply couldn't afford, especially since reviving a high-level wizard was no simple feat. She also understood that over time, the chances of resurrection would dwindle. Yet, Saito argued that in this world, unlike his old one, death didn't have to be an absolute end. Each moment that passed without action diminished their chance to resurrect the old wizard. He emphasized the importance of seizing even the smallest opportunity to honor their friend and try to bring him back. Inspired by his determination, Pan agreed with him and resolved to act swiftly, preparing to gather the necessary tools for the resurrection. She planned to visit the magic shop to collect what they needed while also guiding Riza and Saito in searching for suitable excavation tools along the way. As they made their way to the shop, Pan reflected on Saito's significance in their journey. She knew that without him, they might have given up long ago. Determined to find the tools they needed, she moved from shop to shop, but each place was bustling, making it nearly impossible to acquire what she sought. After some time, feeling frustrated and weary, she decided to return to the grave. However, upon arrival, she was met with shock. The grave they had meticulously dug was now empty, the earth scattered around, and the old wizard's body was nowhere to be found. Determined to act swiftly, she readied herself to gather the necessary tools for resurrection, planning to stop by the magic shop for what they needed. Meanwhile, she guided Riza and Saito to seek suitable excavation tools on the path to the store. Lafant reflected on Saito's importance in their journey, knowing that without him they might have long given up. Determined to find the tools they needed, she moved from shop to shop, but each place was so bustling that acquiring what she sought felt impossible. After a time of frustration and exhaustion, she returned to the grave site, only to be shocked to find the meticulously dug grave now a hollow pit, dirt scattered around, and the body of the old mage missing. Just then, Saito and Riza arrived, equally astonished to see the grave disturbed. But before they could grasp what had happened, another strange sight caught their attention: a figure standing at a distance, resembling a young man in tattered robes and a pointed hat, looking like a mage. However, something about this figure unsettled them. It stood alone, shooting sparks into the chaotic sky. They stared, unable to comprehend what they were witnessing. Upon closer inspection, they realized this was no ordinary person. The figure appeared skeletal, with hollow eyes emitting an unnatural, piercing light. In that moment, Riza and Saito questioned whether this could be their old mage. They had no idea how he had been resurrected in this grotesque form, but as they observed further, it became clear he didn't recognize them at all. He continued to unleash fire recklessly, devoid of focus or control. Realizing they were in real danger, Riza and Saito quickly ducked behind a large rock, pressing against it to shield themselves from the relentless flames. Riza's mind raced as she understood the severity of the situation. If they continued to hide, the skeleton might soon target them, leaving them with no escape. In her heart, she felt they had no choice but to confront this threat, despite knowing the danger. Gathering her courage, she decided to take action. She dashed through the sand, running towards the skeleton, with Saito right behind her. Both hoped to put an end to this horrific nightmare. As she drew near, she raised her sword and struck the skeleton's head with all her might. The blade made contact, yet it seemed to do almost nothing. The skeleton's head shook from the impact but remained intact, showing no signs of breaking. Riza quickly realized that conventional weapons were useless against such a foe. Only magical weapons could breach the skeleton's defenses. Panicking, she dodged its unceasing attacks while brainstorming alternative ways to fight. Seeing Riza struggle, Saito had an idea. He ran towards her, carrying a flask of holy water. If Riza could pour it on her sword, it might transform her weapon into a powerful magical tool capable of defeating the skeleton. But just as Saito attempted to hand her the flask, the skeleton turned back, unleashing a powerful blast of fire. The flames shattered the holy water flask, spilling its contents into the sand. Both Riza and Saito felt a wave of dread wash over them as they realized their last hope had slipped away, and the skeleton was now preparing an even stronger attack aimed directly at Riza. Suddenly, when all hope seemed lost, a tremendous force struck the skeleton from an unexpected direction. The impact was so powerful that the skeleton's head flew off its body, rolling across the sand. Riza and Saito turned in astonishment, wondering who or what had intervened. They saw a figure in the distance, strangely resembling their old mage. Despite the differences, the figure whispered something familiar in a voice they recognized all too well. Riza's heart raced as she recognized that voice. It was unmistakably that of their old mage. A wave of relief mixed with confusion enveloped them. Saito felt a rush of joy at seeing his friend alive, but as they approached, they realized the form of the mage was anything but ordinary. His body was now skeletal, with a hollow face and empty eyes gazing at them vacantly. As Riza tried to grasp what had transpired, the old mage appeared bewildered, only remembering that he had lain down and then vanished. But another strange occurrence took place. The skeletal body of the mage gradually began to transform, flesh and bone returning bit by bit. Familiar features emerged on his vacant face, skin and beard appearing in patches until he finally stood before them, looking like the mage they once knew. Although Riza felt relieved to see him revived, she couldn't shake the unsettling nature of his resurrection. Yet despite the oddity, they all felt more at ease knowing the old mage was back by their side, ready to face whatever dangers lay ahead. Later, at the inn, the old mage explained that he had signed a resurrection contract, meaning he would return to life even after death, but only after a day. This was a high-level magic that could only be used once. Though Riza felt a sense of relief seeing the old mage alive again, there was a chill in the air. His resurrection came with a haunting twist. Yet, despite the strangeness of it all, their hearts found solace knowing the ancient sorcerer was back, ready to face any lurking dangers ahead. Later, at the inn, the old mage revealed he had signed a resurrection pact, meaning even death couldn't keep him down. He would return after just one day. This was high-level magic, a one-time use only. Saito couldn't contain his joy, exclaiming how thrilled he was to see the old mage back among them. But suddenly, the mage's face morphed into a skull, Before reverting back to normal, his magic was unstable, oscillating between life and death. La Fan Pan declared that part of his body was missing, which explained why the resurrection magic faltered, leaving them powerless to help. In the midst of their conversation, the old mage entered the inn, declaring he would assist them and revealing a tome of magic called the Magicpedia. According to the book, when resurrection magic fails due to a missing body part, they must retrieve that lost piece. Even if the flesh has been consumed, the magical energy would still reside within whoever devoured it. Thus, if they could find the wolf that had eaten the mage's body part and extract its magical energy, the old mage could be fully revived. The next morning they set out to hunt for the wretched wolf, aided by a dwarf. However, they struggled to detect the magical energy, until suddenly an elf from the woods approached them, his eyes widening at the skeletal form of the mage. When he learned from Saito about the wolf bearing a red mark on its forehead, he recalled a job advertisement in town. There was a bounty for a giant wolf with a cross-shaped scar on its head that had attacked people. Yet, the elf refused the job due to the low pay, as he had other commitments. However, upon hearing about the feral wolf on the outskirts of the western town, Saito insisted they should head there immediately. They arrived in a desolate area where the dead lay buried, and both the mage and Saito paused to rest while Riza and the others scouted ahead. The mage shared with Saito how Riza was an orphan. When he found her, she had lost her father in a wolf attack, and her mother perished in battle against the wolf's mate. From that moment, she had been living in a world shadowed by loss. On the western outskirts of town, Saito declared they should head there immediately. They arrived at a desert where the dead were buried, and the sorcerer, alongside Saito, took a brief respite while Riza and the others forged ahead. The sorcerer shared with Saito that Riza was an orphan. He had found her after she lost her father to a wolf attack, and her mother had perished in a battle with the wolf's mate. Since then, she had lived with a wolf cub, forming an inseparable bond until the sorcerer had rescued her. To the sorcerer, Riza was like his own daughter, which is why he asked Saito to take her along wherever he went. Saito hesitated, expressing his concern for Riza's feelings. The sorcerer replied that Riza cherished him deeply, and if there was anyone he trusted to care for his daughter, it was Saito. But if he wasn't ready, he wouldn't force him. Saito pondered, uncertain if he was the right fit for her, but vowed to do his utmost. Finally, he asked the sorcerer if he could marry Riza. Hearing this, the old sorcerer embraced Saito, tears streaming down his face. Suddenly, the wild wolf, infused with frenzied magical energy, charged at the sorcerer, biting off his hand. As Saito attempted to save him, he too came under attack, just as Riza and La Fan Pan arrived, searching for them. They found both men sprawled on the ground, groaning in agony, while the wild wolf stood ominously before them. Riza urged La Fan Pan to help Saito with a resurrection spell, since he still had breath, while she would confront the ravenous beast that was feasting on their limbs. Fueled by fury, Riza vowed to tear the wolf to shreds and reclaim the sorcerer's body parts. With those words, she charged toward the wolf, and it lunged at her in return. Their clash reverberated through the air as the wolf unleashed flames from deep within, melting Riza's armor. Yet, undeterred, she pressed on, striking the wolf's pressure points, inflicting pain. Just as she prepared to deliver the final blow, an adorable white wolf pup bounded onto the scene, barking at Riza. In that moment, she recognized it as the wild wolf's offspring. Hearing the pup's bark stirred the mother wolf, who struggled to rise and approached Riza, pleading for her child's life. Riza glared at the beast, but Saito diverted her attention by stating that the sorcerer was no longer breathing. Riza declared she would spare the pup but would sever the limbs of the mother wolf to extract magical energy and save the sorcerer. However, as she raised her sword to carry out her plan, 2 tentacles pierced the mother wolf's body, and La Fan Pan screamed that it was the Demon Lord. The Demon Lord vanished along with the wolf's form, but Saito quickly drew a hook from his belt, ensnaring the wild wolf, determined not to let it escape until the sorcerer was revived. La Fan Pan swiftly channeled magic into Riza's sword. Riza urged the Demon Lord to release the wolf, but it refused, hell-bent on avenging its brother. La Fan Pan screamed in horror, "It's the Demon King!" As the Demon King vanished along with the wolf's form, Saito swiftly retrieved a hook from his belt, wrapping it around the wolf's body, determined not to let it go until the mage was revived. La Fan Pan quickly infused magic into Riza's sword. Riza pleaded with the Demon King to release the wolf, but vengeance for its fallen brother drove the creature's actions. It revealed that the wolf should have perished long ago but had consumed a vast amount of magical energy. Thus, its master commanded it to return. The Demon King invoked the curse of the thunderstorm, charging towards the wolf to rescue it before the curse could be completed. But the curse was already unleashed, prompting La Fan Pan to erect a golden barrier to protect Riza. Seizing the opportunity, Ryza plunged her sword into the demon. However, the demon's master appeared, attacking them with fiery energy, causing Lafan Pan to fall while saving Ryza. The Demon King emerged from its own body, and Ryza recognized this foe as the strongest she had ever encountered. She urged Saito to take Lafan Pan and flee, insisting he would only slow her down. She vowed to bring back the mage and the wolf, while Saito ran with Lafan Pan, attempting to carry the wolf cub, which refused to leave without its mother. Saito pondered what to do to save his friends while Ryza battled the merciless Demon King. The Demon King wrapped its tendrils around Ryza, declaring she would become a beautiful stuffed specimen. It jabbed its tendrils into her neck, but Saito leaped in, gripping Ryza's metal cord and severing the tendril. Ryza retaliated, slicing the Demon King in half, but as she touched its core, the frost curse was unleashed. Saito dove in to take the curse upon himself, becoming frozen. Ryza fought against the demon to save Saito from death. Saito placed the mage's body near the wolf, allowing the aged mage to sense the magical energy close to him. His soul traveled to another realm where the wolf lay dead, urging the mage to take care of the cub in exchange for its magical energy. The mage agreed instantly. Meanwhile, Ryza was gravely injured, blood seeping from her wounds. Suddenly, the demon's head was severed, and Saito's ice prison shattered, collapsing into Ryza's arms. The mage resolved to care for the wolf pup in exchange for its magical energy, and he agreed without hesitation. Meanwhile, Ryza lay gravely injured, blood seeping from her body, but suddenly, a demon's head was severed, and Saito's ice barrier shattered. He collapsed into Ryza's arms, and together, they realized it was the power of the six-wind sword. As they looked on, they saw the old mage returning, now brimming with all his strength and magic. The old mage unleashed a torrent of fire magic, conjuring 8 blazing swords that pierced through the demon's form, vanquishing the demon lord. He strode towards Saito, Lafan Pan, and Ryza, who were moved to tears at the sight of him back among them. The mage had sprouted ears and a tail, a gift from the wolf for the magical strength he had gained. He spoke to them, saying the wolf had granted him its power, but he would care for its pup from now on, wishing to return the wolf's strength to resurrect it for its child. But suddenly, a fierce wind swept before them, knocking the mage down. The group looked on in horror as the demon lord rose once more. Yet the mage was unscathed. Gathering every ounce of his strength, he quickly transformed into a youthful form, declaring he had reclaimed his age. Suddenly, the wizard summoned a colossal golem through teleportation magic, merging it into a gigantic stone monster. In the fierce battle, the Demon King shattered the giant golem with overwhelming force, his eyes fixated on the sorcerer who dared to oppose him. But the sorcerer reacted with a fierce punch to the Demon King's face. Seizing this moment, he commanded the shattered pieces of the golem to gather and attempted to crush the demon beneath them, using magic to tighten his grip, forcing each stone to cling to the Demon King's body like metal to a powerful magnet. Yet, the sorcerer knew this would only buy him a little time to protect his teammates. Hastily, he drew a protective barrier around them, hoping to shield them from the relentless wrath of the Demon King. Now, in a final attempt to end this battle, the sorcerer summoned the ultimate weapon, the legendary Fire Sword, a spell known as the God of War Fire Sword. The air thickened with power as he summoned the flames, 8 blazing fire points forming above his head. But just as victory seemed within reach, his mind went blank. He had forgotten the ancient incantation that would unleash the weapon's full might. This hesitation left him vulnerable, and the Demon King sensed that weakness, charging forward with the intent to finish him off. As the demon approached, ready to deliver a fatal blow to the sorcerer, Saito lunged forward, gripping Ryza's sword with unwavering determination. With a powerful slash, Saito pierced through the demon's arm, halting its advance. This unexpected strike provided the sorcerer with the opportunity he desperately needed. At the climax of this fierce battle, the mage summoned the legendary Fire Sword, the ultimate weapon, unleashing a blazing formation known as the War God's Flame Blade. Thick with power, 8 radiant flames ignited above his head. Yet, as victory neared, his mind faltered, emptying in the crucial momentha, had forgotten the ancient incantation that would unleash the weapon's full might. This hesitation carved an opening, and the Demon King sensed weakness. Charging in to strike the final blow, the monstrous fiend loomed closer. But before doom could fall, Saitothe's steadfast Majarushed forward, gripping Ryza's sword with unwavering resolve. With a fierce slash, he severed the demon's arm, halting its advance. That swift strike birthed the chance the mage desperately needed. Saito urged the mage to wield the fire magic to scorch the Demon King, and together they unleashed searing flames that engulfed their colossal foe. As the last ember faded, a collective breath escaped. They had triumphed. Ah, moved by awe and gratitude for Saito's courage, hurried to him, heart pounding, ready to embrace him. But just as she neared, a horrifying sight froze her in place. The Demon King's severed head still clung to a flicker of life and lunged toward them. Danger seemed far from over until the wolf pup, guardian of their land, sprang into action, attacking the demon's head and eradicating its final remnant. Yet, that pup's loyalty soon turned to rage. Barking fiercely, it growled at Saito and the mage, accusing them of slaying its beloved wolf parent. In a heart-wrenching moment, the mage sensed its sorrow and gently lifted the pup, letting it smell a familiar scent that somehow soothed its fury. Touched by the little creature's loss, the mage made a bold choice. Pouring a sliver of his life force into the motionless wolf pup, he defied his comrade's protests. Slowly, the pup stirred, awakening to see tears streaming down beside it. This selfless act drained much of the mage's energy. As the reunited pup and pack embraced, the mage collapsed from exhaustion. Filled with worry, rushed to carry him home to heal. Back at the inn, Saito awoke to find Risa silently watching him, her eyes steady and calm. As he regained consciousness, she explained he had slipped into a deep sleep upon their return. Saito noticed a rare softness in her gaze a moment of true carriers. They shared this quiet connection before joining the others. The mage, too, had awakened, fully rested. Though his restful night only seemed to amplify his youthful mischief, he soon stirred trouble among the guests and staff. Meanwhile, Risa and Saito climbed to the maze's summit, seeking a vantage point over the winding paths below. The tranquil air matched her pensive mood, her eyes distant as she confided in Saito. While he rested, she found herself conversing with a lone wolf they'd encountered on the road. For someone like Risa, cautious and reserved, this was unlike her at all. But then she revealed the wolf reminded her of a pup she once knew during her early years, 3 harsh winters spent surviving side by side. Lost in thought, she reflected on those hard-fought times together. This experience forged her into someone tougher, less delicate than others. A transformation only those who've endured hardship can truly understand. Deep inside, she felt she belonged only with those who accepted her for who she truly was. And Saito, in that moment, realized just how much he treasured her presence. Words slipped from his lips before he could hold them back. He needed her in his life more than anyone else in this entire world. Those words escaped before he could stop them. No sooner had he indirectly confessed his feelings than the dwarf rushed over, breaking the awkward silence. Panting and flustered, he announced that the old mage had lost the inn's key once again, and had somehow brought trouble upon himself. He urgently needed Saito's help with the locks. Without hesitation, Saito was pulled away, leaving Risa alone on the rooftop. After the chaos settled, Saito found himself in a quiet room with the mage. He brought a small bottle of honey, and offered it as a rare gesture that seemed to please the old wizard. This simple gift softened the mage's usual mischief, mellowing his mood. Not long after, Saito sought out Risa again. This time, he carried a carefully crafted gift-a-sharp, sturdy weapon he had specially made for her. As she examined it, Risa discovered a cleverly hidden hairpin attached to the weapon's handle. Instantly, she understood this was Saito's way of giving her a personal token alongside the practical gift. With a gentle smile, she removed the pin and fastened it into her hair, a silent acknowledgement of his thoughtful gesture. Their journey continued. They faced a magical beast next, a castle-shaped monster that eerily resembled the old mage himself. With fierce determination, Risa struck it down with a single powerful blow. There was a new energy in her movements, a strength born from a silent bond with Saito, a newfound confidence shining through. Later, Saito prepared a bath for Lafanpan, and she was delighted to relax in the small tub. Exhausted, they all fell asleep, and when they awoke the next morning, Lafanpan was no longer a tiny spirit. She had grown to human size. After some time strolling together, Lafanpan joyfully leapt about, having returned to her normal form, signaling the curse had been lifted. Saito surprised her with a beautiful cloak, but she refused it, saying she had no gold to repay him. Saito quickly assured her it was both an apology and a token of gratitude for all her help. Risa donned the cloak and ran around happily until she unexpectedly bumped into a thug. The ruffian approached with a mocking grin, harassing her, but Saito stepped in to protect her. The thug glared at Saito and asked if he was the one who discovered the new dungeon door. Then he sneered, calling Saito weak despite his powerful allies. He shouted for Saito to stop pretending to be important just because he had some skills. The thug swung a punch, but Saito swiftly grabbed his hand, twisted him around, and slapped